Place to be Nation, welcome back to the One and Only Place to Be podcast. I'm your co-host, Justin Rosero, coming to you from the PTB studios on this Monday. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime since 2011, and I guess before that too, Mr. Scott Criscollo. Scott, how are you?
Good evening, JR, PTB, Wrestling Network, and No-So friends and family. Welcome to 650 of the longest-running episodic motherfucking Gold Extender. Yeah, halfway to 7 bills.
Crazy, 650. It sneaks right up on you.
It does, right?
Yeah.
It does.
A year from now, we'll be like, oh, we're almost to 700.
It'll go from 650 to fucking 694. So
2 years,
anyway.
Probably 2 years.
Yeah. JR, how are you? We're heading into the summer. You know what that means?
Summer.
Fun and games. A little St. Mary action coming soon.
Be here before you know it. Be sending out that invite soon because the shit fills up. I usually send it, I think, early May. I got berated by Sean Kidd at WrestleMania, so he might be making an appearance, and maybe our guest tonight, of course, is welcome as well. It's open. I told Sean, I'm like, it's open invite. He's like, open invite. I'm like, open invite. You can come, just ask. I'm not going to ask you to fly up and spend your money to come up here, but if you want to come, just let me know. You're welcome. Anyways,
totally.
Anyway, our guest here tonight, you hear him everywhere across all of our podcast networks. And of course, he's your good friend of mine, Mr. Scott Shifflett. Scott, how are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here since you guys have revamped it. I was on the old one, so I'm glad to be here and talk about what we're getting the match tonight.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. You're a must-have guest, of course. It's tough to pull you in. And of course, my profile picture right now, at least at the time of recording this, is me feeding you brisket at our.
It was amazing. I thought it was a video that was being taken when that. So
me too. Showed up. 9 pictures apparently, but yeah, I thought it was a video as well. We sure acted like it was, but
yeah, it was amazing brisket. So
it was tasty. Yeah. All right, so Mr. Schiff, why don't you tell us what match you picked tonight and why?
Okay, so I know you guys have already been to Virginia. I'm taking us back to Virginia, and we're hitting Starrcade 91, season 9 on Peacock, and it's the BattleBowl. This is it's like my comfort watch. So I've watched it when I'm sick. I wore the VHS out when I was younger. It's just like my favorite match. Sting's my favorite wrestler, and like to see him triumphant. And I've watched it so many times that like you can see where Luger like attacks the wrong leg at one point, and Sting's like the other one dumbass. And then like someone brought like a 6-month-old baby to the show, and I'll show it to you guys when they get thrown into the barricade. The dad like brings the baby back in recoil. It's like, dude, you brought a 6-month-old to a wrestling show. What are you expecting? But I like put this on when I'm doing like fantasy drafts or just anything. It's like, you know how you guys fall asleep to like late 80s WWF. This is my late 80s WWF. I grew up watching NWA, WCW, so I just loved it. And when you guys asked me, I was like, I know just the match.
All right. I was going to say, I think it's the first state we doubled up on, but it's actually second now. We've had 2 New York episodes. We had Buffalo and Long Island, and now our second Virginia episode here on Making Town. So we're going to go all the way back to the week of December 22nd to December 29th, 1991. Scott Criscollo is going to tell us what was going on in the world of wrestling that week.
All right. Well, it was actually very busy, believe it or not, because this specific date, December 29th, was busy for many reasons. Obviously, Starrcade 1991 was going on, but the World Wrestling Federation had 4 shows on this day. So 2 loops and 2 shows.
Yeah, baby.
So there's a Northeast loop and a Midwest loop. Let's get one show out of the way, everybody, because if the date sounds familiar to you, December 29th, 1991, it's because JR and I have done a show on this date. Well, not on this date, but about a show that happened on this date. Because also on December 29th, 1991, was an MSG house show televised on the MSG network on New Year's Eve. So a little trivia for you both, if you can remember. What episode number was it? And who was our guest?
Oh, God. Is this the Flair Hogan rematch? Did they fight twice?
Yes, it is. It's the Flair Hogan is the main event.
All right. I'm going to say, I don't think it was Bennett. I'm going to take a shot with him.
Okay.
Damn it, that was my guess.
You think Bennett? All right.
You're not episode or it's not Bennett. Okay. I think Sheriff Pete was done with the December shows by 91, so I don't think it was him.
I know. Poor bastard got every piece.
I know we had Kelly on. I know we had Kelly back on at one point, but I feel like it was maybe later in 92. For episode number, oh God, because we did 3 more years after that. I don't know, 565.
Okay. Schiff,
I'm doing 477.
Okay. It was episode 574.
Ooh, close. It's close.
It dropped on the feed April 5th. Almost 2021.
Wow.
We were in the throes of the vid. Our guest, geographically, you weren't even close. It was the Thunder from Down Under, Mr. Dave Hall.
Dave Hall. All right.
Dave Hall, yes. Dave Hall was our guest for that one. So that was episode 574.
And that would have been, so if that dropped on April 5th or recorded, dropped on April 5th.
Dropped
so
on April 5th.
I think it might have been in Tampa. That was like coming home from Tampa, maybe. What was that Mania weekend? Was it that one?
30, was it 30? Well, it would have been the, right? You guys came back from the Tampa monsoon, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 3rd and 4th, maybe. I don't think it would have been the 9th and 10th. So it had to be that. It had to be that weekend.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, all right.
Lifetime to go. Yeah.
Yep. So if you want to listen to that episode, go to our archive, placetobe.podbean.com, or any of your podcast catchers, and you can check it out. It's episode 574. I'm not going to go into all the matches because there was another show on this date that we probably talked about. So for those that are new to the feed, this will all be new to you. For those that have listened to every episode, there'll be a little bit of repeating here, but it's okay. It's been obviously 2.5 years almost. So, that was a matinee, by the way. The night show was up at the Centrum in Worcester. So, 1991, JR. You didn't go for your 11th birthday. Nasty Boys defeated the Bushwhackers. Skinner pinned Chris Walker. Virgil pinned Repo Man with a cradle.
Was that match about search engine optimization? The winner had the best Google search.
Yes. Davey Boy Smith pinned the Berserker with a roll-up. Ric Flair defeated Roddy Piper via countout when Flair was able to return to the ring in time when both were brawling on the floor. Sergeant Slaughter defeated Colonel Mustafa and General Adnan in a handicap flag match. And the main event, your Intercontinental Champion, the Hitman Bret Hart, defeated Ted DiBiase via DQ when DiBiase shoved Bret into the ref. I believe almost all of those matches were at the MSG. Also at the MSG, there was Hercules against the Hammer, Nasty Boys Bushwhackers.
It's like a couple months before Hercules' best ever MSG match against Sid, where he no-sells the powerbomb.
Yeah. Skinner on this show pinned Jim Powers. Chris Walker actually pinned the Brooklyn Brawler. Virgil beat Repo
Optimize this.
Bret and DiBiase. Actually, and at the Garden, if you remember, JR, Bret and DiBiase fought to a draw. So the match was probably pretty good. And the main event, yes, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair via countout at 10:09 after ramming Flair's head into the ring post on the floor. After the match, Flair jumped Hogan from behind, but Hogan fought him off and sent him to the floor. All right. Let's see. So the other loop was the Midwest. The matinee was at the Palace of Auburn Hills, home of the Pistons at the time. Chris Chavez, who was that? Pinned Kato. Tito Santana pinned the Mighty Warlord. The Undertaker pinned Jim Duggan after hitting him with the urn. The Mountie. I love the way this is worded. I don't know if this was grammar. The Mountie pinned Kerry Von Erich after Von Erich fell backward off the top rope. Probably not an accident. Probably not an accident. Right. Yeah, probably not an accident.
Fritz was yelling at him from the thing. God damn it, Kerry!
Jesus, Kerry!
He passed out.
My brother now.
Yeah. How about your stupid Fred Hellwig? WWF Tag Team Champion Road Warrior Animal pinned Typhoon with a clothesline from the middle turnbuckle. This bout replaced the scheduled Legion of Doom vs. Natural Disasters tag title match after it was announced that Earthquake
Hawk fell off the rope before the match. Oh, okay.
Yes. Earthquake. I thought it was something Hawk related, but it wasn't actually. Earthquake was injured. So Hawk sat it out and Animal and Typhoon did a singles match. Big Boss Man defeated IRS. Beverly Brothers defeated the Rockers when Jannetty was pinned after Shawn Michaels walked out.
That's going to be like one of the last, I would say that has to be one of the last Rocker matches.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think they already, at this point, I think they had taped the barbershop window pretty much at this point.
Yeah, and it aired on what, January 7th or whatever? So I think.
Yeah,
that has to be one of the last ones.
Yeah. And then in the main event, Randy Savage pinned Jake Roberts with the flying elbow smash. Miss Elizabeth did not appear in Savage's corner as advertised. So the nightcap was at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago.
Oh, was it a nightmare? Nightmare at the Rosemont?
Was it the Nightmare at Rosemont? I don't know. Was Johnny Valiant there? Ozzy Osbourne?
For the Dream Team, maybe.
That's right. And pretty much the card is exactly the same. So I'm not even going to read it. Same matches. So pretty much the same thing. I don't know if Kerry Von Erich fell off the rope in this at the Rosemont, but I'm sure he found a good dealer in Chicago, most likely. So, yes, 3 years earlier, he bled to death against Jerry Lawler because he couldn't scratch his arm without his blade ripping his arm to pieces. So anyway, so there you go. There's your house shows.
Well, that Tornado MSG match was on there, wasn't there? What was that really bad one we watched? I think it was early. Martel, is it January 92? I think. Remember him and Martel? He's like all fucked up in that match. It's like really, really bad. It might be. I don't have to look at our thing maybe while we're doing the Meltzer notes, but I think it was January 92 when he fights Martel. It's awful. It's so bad. It's the most like fucked up he obviously was at a match.
Yeah.
He's like wandering
I'll take a look.
around. Martel's do whatever he can to like keep it on track, and it's just a complete disaster.
It's probably like, stop being a quitter. Stop being a quitter.
Yeah, no, it's a real bad.
He's
a real mess.
Yeah, he's a shit show.
So the January 92. Yeah, Tornado Martel. We both gave it a half star. It's real bad. It's I'd recommend anyone if you want to go watch it just to like the mind numbingness of it all. But he like poor Kerry is just a disaster in that match.
Yeah, no,
I think he's gone after the Rumble for good, right? Like I think he's not a Mania, so I think that's when they ship him off to rehab or whatever. And that's it. He's dead a year later. So by the tree. All right. So we're not going to do Herb Coons tonight, sadly, because Scott, as you mentioned back in episode, whatever it was, 574.
574.
We already covered the Herb notes from this week. So we're going to do a little Wrestling Observer newsletter deep dive. We're going to do 2 weeks of notes. December 16th, 1991. Looks like the end of the road for Portland Wrestling. It's aired for 38 years in the state of Oregon. High production costs and declining ratings have led for KPTV to cancel the show after 4 decades. Promoter Don Owens doesn't know if the cancellation is the end of the promotion. It was. But Owens Promotions is probably the oldest active wrestling company in the world, dating back to the mid-20s. Live shows will continue Saturday night at the Portland Sports Arena. With no TV to promote it, we don't see it lasting long. Aside from ratings and production costs, the show sponsor, Tom Peterson, recently filed bankruptcy, leaving the show with no sponsorship money. Word is KPTV is negotiating with the WWF and WCW to air their shows in the Saturday time slots, which would give them wrestling on the same night, but without any of the production costs. If this is the end of Owen Promotions, it would leave Lawler Jarrett's Memphis promotion, USWA, is the only surviving regional territory. This isn't the Observer, but Wikipedia says at the time of cancellation, Portland Wrestling was the longest running non-news show on television, the third longest overall behind Meet the Press and CBS Evening News. To this day, it is still one of the day that these notes were posted on Reddit, one of the top 20 longest running shows in TV history. Portland Wrestling on
it's
KPTV.
crazy.
Wow.
It's sad around this time, because this will sound real nerdy for me, but I'm on a wrestling podcast right now. So when I eat lunch at work, I work at my desk, I'll read old Observers and just hearing JT talking about the demise of Portland, and then I'm in 93 right now and talking about them being obsessed with the Texas territories and Dallas. It was some big thing, and it was 2 promotions, and it's dude, you're fighting uphill.
It's dead. It's a real transition from the territories to the indies. So that's what it becomes. The territories were more legit, right? Because they're either tied to the NWA or they're getting guys in and out, and it becomes a transition to more of that indie style where you kind of have your guys and it's regional, but it's not I don't know. I don't know the distinction, but it's kind of what that becomes, right? Because the Texas portion is global, pretty much, right? USWA Texas or whatever is still lingering on and limping on, and Smoky Mountain crops up in 93.
World Class is pretty much cooked by this point.
Right. Eastern Championship, Tri-State, like all those are still around, but
it's not even World Class anymore. They call it Big D in global. It's like
yeah. Well, when I know, I know. I watched pretty much all the World Class on the network, and that the shows ended in like, I don't know, October of '88. It was right before the Super Clash 3.
Speaking of Big D,
and I'm looking at the God,
Big D
is worse than
right there.
This is worse than fucking Jim Duggan. I got my 2x4. No, Dust. Let him go play in traffic. Yeah, because at that point, that's when Jarrett bought it. It became USWA. They merged all the belts. Jarrett was a mess, and I think by pretty much the end of '90, World Class was cooked at that point.
Yeah, and USWA lingers till whatever, like 97, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But
when is Global on right now at this point? End of 91?
No, no, I think it's maybe like 92, 93 for Global. I think in there somewhere. Maybe it's 91. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is 91 because when I'm reading in 93, they are like putting on like just repeat episodes.
Yeah, 93 is when they
cut that shit out. So
yeah,
but it's like Iceman King Parsons is there, Gentleman Chris Adams. It's just like the 80s World Class. So
yeah, I mean, if you were reading like PWI and that stuff at that time too, they still had all the like results and champions from like all those little indie promotions and shit that were floating around. But yeah, it was a tough time. I mean, once the AWA fell, everything else kind of dominoed after that, like in 1990 or whatever. All right, Dynamite Kid announced his retirement this past Friday. He completed an All Japan tour. Back injury from 5 years ago turned into one of the best wrestlers on earth, to a shell of him former self. He's also plagued by neck, shoulder, and knee problems. The neck injury is what caused doctors to tell him one more bump could paralyze him. Dave wrote a long piece about Dynamite. It's basically the same as every obituary he ever writes. Notable mentions are given to the greatest bump ever taken, which apparently was a diving headbutt from the top rope outside the ring to concrete. And, of course, the back injury in 1986 almost ended his career. This Tuesday in Texas took place in front of a sellout crowd of 8,000 people, which Gorilla Monsoon called over 20,000 at the time on pay-per-view. Buy rate-wise, the show seemed to have been a pretty big success, doing solid numbers despite having no budget and no promotion. As predicted, the main event led to the title being held up for the Royal Rumble. Also, Jake Roberts' Macho Man angle with Roberts slapping Miss Elizabeth, one of the most dramatic angles in history. The WCW New Japan show for January 4th has been booked. They're hoping they can equal or break the attendance record of 64,500. Ross on TV claims 40,000 tickets have already been sold. Apparently, there's a story going around that Mike Tyson has challenged Hulk Hogan to a match. There's been no negotiations for anything like that to happen, but a pay-per-view potential with that would be huge. Superstar Billy Graham finally broke his long silence in a 3-hour interview with Inside Edition. Clips are set to air in a segment on the show in early January. There's a big newspaper story about steroid use in the NFL, which isn't directly wrestling related, but shows that steroids are still a major story in the media, and wrestling can't hide forever. In Japan, SWS officials have arranged a meeting during the All Japan tournament and tried to get 5 All Japan top stars to jump to WWF and work for SWS as well. 3 of them declined, and 2 others were interested. And announcements could come this week. Reporters in Japan are pissed because after Hogan won the title from the Undertaker Tuesday in Texas, SWS informed the media that Hogan would be defending the title against Tenryu in the Japan show. Of course, the next night on WWF TV, the title is vacated, so Hogan will not be champion when he goes to Japan. This feels like SWS spread the story just to sell tickets, despite knowing that Hogan would be stripped. And more Japan news, at an FMW show, the Sheik threw a fireball, which legitimately caused a decent-sized fire in the ring and caused panic until someone got a fire extinguisher and put it out. Just wait another 6 months. On the debut taping of Smoky Mountain, debut of Smoky Mountain. Jim Cornette cut a promo going off on WCW WWF cartoon wrestling and steroids. More things change. WCW is showing interest in the Patriot. He may be out of Global soon, and of course he would be. The ever-delightful Herb Abrams has sent a threatening letter to the father of a 15-year-old kid who criticized him in a homemade newsletter. He's claiming to have both Jimmy Snuka and Hercules signed to 1-year contracts. So what a coup. Given that both guys are actively wrestling in the WWF, take that as you will. Ultimate Warrior's wife, Shari, is featured in this month's Playboy Lingerie magazine. It's Warrior's first wife. They got divorced in early 1991, so they weren't even married at the time of the magazine. The latest TV taping, Shawn Michaels has turned on Marty Jannetty, who then jumped through the barbershop window in an act of cowardism. Also, Brian Lee, Kevin Von Erich, Chris Adams, the Harris brothers, and Charles Wright got tryouts. Wright is going to be hired and turned into a voodoo man. Brian Lee does not. I don't think he gets hired in this batch. Chris Adams never goes there. And the Harrises don't either, right? I think the first time they show up is 95 as the Blues.
As the Blue Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, they go to ECW. Brian Lee eventually goes to ECW. I think he must just go back to Memphis or whatever. But
yeah, he goes back to Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
Till the end.
Sid Justice is expected to return at the Royal Rumble. WF got into some trouble in Vancouver when the Bushwhackers led the crowd in a chant of, it's a 6-letter word beginning with F, at the Beverly Brothers, which upset people. The city of Vancouver is demanding the WF make a public apology. Oh, you. Harley Race is staying with WCW, but he'll no longer be with Lex Luger. He'll be managing Vader and Mr. Hughes. Jim Ross has acknowledged some possible wrestlers coming to WCW, saying the Ultimate Warrior is a long shot, but Terry Gordy, Steve Williams, and Scott Norton, as well as Great Muta, should be in early 1992. In Florida, due to the possible regulation being considered, WWF and WCW are posting signs outside the venue alerting fans of possible match changes and no-shows. And finally, there's a charity issue going on with Starrcade, the Starlight Foundation. 8 cents per pay-per-view buy, or 16 cents, depending on who you believe, could lead to $12,000 to $24,000 for the charity. And in exchange, WCW is hoping for a major celebrity like John Candy to be at Starrcade. Whereas the charity will send a minor celebrity instead. I don't think they did, but
I thought it was going to the Scott Shifflett Zaxby's fund.
There you go. All right, there's a lot there. What do you guys? Any big takeaways?
I think Scott Norton was threatened. I mean, rumored to be in WCW like 15 times. I mean, this Tuesday in Texas is special to me because that was the first podcast I ever listened to of you guys, because I was like, I've never heard of like anyone explain why the hell it happened. And I was like, throw it on this guy, on this. So that's what got me hooked. But other than that, like WCW doing the Starlight stuff, they did that with like a couple of other pay-per-views, but they would up the price by $5 so they would make the money back.
Of
Of course they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a shock. Yeah, I mean, pretty much cut. I mean, I've never heard that Bushwhacker story. I've never heard that.
That's something.
That's
something.
Kicking it old sheep herder style, huh? Woo! Fucking Rip Morgan.
Vancouver fans didn't know what was headed their way.
It's ridiculous.
All right, let's get one more notes here from Dave from December 23rd. Last issue of the year. It's a slow news week with the holidays. The WWF SWS show took place this past week. Attendance was around 40,000. They announced it as 61.5. As expected, Hogan defeated Tenryu in the main event, despite booking that made no sense and actively hurt both Tenryu and SWS. The media has been led to believe that Tenryu would win in order to make up for the morning deadlines. They already wrote up their stories, but Hogan won, causing mass panic in the press room as everyone had to change the stories. Mass panic.
Brother!
The Starrcade leads the lottery sounds ridiculous to Dave and predicts it won't do well. Sorry, Scott. A new promotion called the AWF, American Wrestling Federation, has debuted this weekend. A promoter named Gordon Scazzari is starting it. He apparently inherited a bunch of money and is funding his own indie promotion. Of course, there were several no-shows, including Eddie Gilbert, who was supposed to be booking the show, and the taping was a mess. Out of curiosity, it looks like Scazzari is actually 20 years old trying to start this promotion. He blew his 6-figure inheritance to bring in as many names as he could. Apparently, most people took advantage of him, as you might expect a business of carnies to do. And of course, the promotion does not last. Scazzari passed away at the age of 40 in 2011.
Poor guy.
6-figure inheritance gone on fucking God knows who he paid.
On Eddie Gilbert. Like, what are we doing?
Eddie Gilbert's Coke.
Yeah. They must have, all these wrestlers must have just been chomping at the bit to be part of this fucking disaster. WCW spent the last week touring the UK, but the shows didn't do well because a few weeks ago, their TV show got canceled there, so they cannot promote it. WCW had to move the location of Super Brawl from the original venue, the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. The reason is Trump himself insisted on booking the building the day before for a one-on-one basketball game between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Julius Erving. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great basketball game, which wouldn't give WCW enough time to prepare the venue for the next night. And they ended up moving to what? Is Milwaukee for Super Brawl 92?
It's Milwaukee.
Yeah,
had
Super
Magic
Milwaukee. On leap year day.
Had Magic. Did he come out with age yet?
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Magic? Yeah.
Magic is late.
That was in November. It was 2 months before.
Okay.
But he would come back.
When he was Lewis Cinder. Great player.
He would get to play.
I told him he changed that name. It was too many lose. Not unique enough.
He would end up playing in the All-Star game. That was an awesome All-Star game where he hit all the threes and everything. Yeah.
Bruce Pritchard, who's formerly Brother Love, will be doing commentary for Global. That I remember because I remember putting it on ESPN as a kid and being like, it sounded like Roddy Piper, and I'm like, oh, is Piper like a Global? Like it was basically doing like his Piper Brother Love impression, like he did at WrestleMania 5. If you listen to those shows, it sounded just like it.
Yeah.
Oh, which I think he probably did on purpose to try and trick people like me. The Inside Edition piece featuring superstar Billy Graham will air on January 3rd. Features interviews with Bruno Sammartino and David Schultz. Not sure what aspect of the steroid story will be focused on, but there's a good chance it'll be a teardown of Hulk Hogan. Some guy named Mike Tenay has a weekly wrestling show airing in Las Vegas in Southern California. Jimmy Snooker is no longer with the WWF, so Herb Abrams may have not been lying last week when he said he signed him to a contract. The word is he asked for release and was granted. Vince McMahon is trying to sell his bodybuilding TV show Body Stars in syndication, but no luck. Of course, it would end up on USA.
Did y'all ever watch that?
I think at the time I tried watching a couple because they talked about it so friggin' much on TV. It was like, all right, I'll check it out. And they did have some wrestlers on from time to time as well. But Cameo was the girl's name. Remember, that hosted with Vince. They both had the Zubas on. Yeah. WCW's new contracts have upset people. The old contracts paid wrestlers while they're injured. The new ones will only offer pay for the first 2 months of an injury, and after that, you're on your own. There you go. And finally, our favorite story from this week, the Bushwhackers chant story from last week actually happened in November, but Dave just found out about it. And the WWF made an apology on CBC radio. So there you go. I will say this. Luckily, they didn't go further down the line and maybe get into a bit of a race thing either. Like if they were fighting anyone different, they could have really played off maybe the theme of our number one song in the nation this week, Black or White, by Michael Jackson, and that could have really been a fiasco. But they didn't double down, thankfully. But that does bring us to Scott Criscolo's vintage pop culture corner.
Indeed. That would not have ended well. Hey, oh, God. So we'll begin, of course, with the Billboard Top 10 for the week ending that Saturday, the 28th. And as JR mentioned, Michael Jackson's Black or White is number 1. Number 2, Boyz II Men, So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Great song. Number 3, All for Love by Color Me Bad. Number 4, little PM Dawn, Set Adrift on Memory Bliss. When a Man Loves a Woman by Michael Bolton at 5. Can't Let Go, great song by Mariah Carey at 6. Another good one, Blowing Kisses in the Wind by Paula Abdul at 7. Pretty good top 10 here. Finally, it's happened to me.
CeCe Peniston.
CeCe Peniston. There you go. Falcons. Too Legit to Quit. MC Hammer. A lot of good at them. Yeah, a lot of good fit in the playoffs, right, Schiff? In that fucking RFK slop. And Wild Side by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch at 10.
A lot of baby making music in that top 10.
Yeah, right? Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's such a big difference. Schiff, last episode we did 2002, and it was all like R&B and hip hop. The whole list was R&B and hip hop,
yeah.
Which is crazy.
I mean, we had Nelly. Nelly had 2 songs. It was crazy. It was crazy. We had like 4 songs with featuring. There was 4 songs.
Well, and this countdown is eerily similar in that like 2002 is kind of like 91. There's that little gap in like kind of hard rock. Like 91, the hair bands are kind of dying off. The metal stuff is dying off. And we're like a year out from grunge. I mean, Nirvana is starting up. And of course, Enter Sandman's 91. But like there's not a lot of popular heavy rock music.
Right.
Similar 02, where we're in the transition, like we talked about, from alternative ska and like whatever else. And then pre-butt rock, right? Where like Nickelback, et cetera, takes over the world in 02, 03. So it's kind of a similar little 10-year stretch of like 91 to that 01, 02, where it's a lot of like pop and kind of R&B heavy stuff.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if Nevermind, because you had Nevermind, you had 10, Bad Motor Finger by Soundgarden. I think Dirt, Alice in Chains' Dirt, I think came out the following year. I actually saw a few weeks before this show, before Starrcade, I saw Guns N' Roses and Soundgarden at the Garden, and I had no idea what Soundgarden was. And GNR was great as usual, but Soundgarden was pretty good, and I'd never even heard of them at that moment.
Yeah, and obviously there was some stuff going on, but as far as like a major being like major top 40 or top 10 hit, whatever it is. Like it just wasn't like a big time for that stuff. It was definitely fading a bit. I mean, there's still some good stuff in there. Extreme had a couple hits in the early 90s and stuff.
You had what do you call it? What was that? Wholehearted and More Than Words and all that. Nelson, they had their big album that year. Anyway, so we move on from the radio to the big screen. What was the weekend domestic chart for this weekend in the movies? Pretty good, solid top 10 of movies here. At number 10, My Girl.
He's got to put his glasses on.
Myth. What was it? Myth busted. Doesn't matter. He's dead. That was so funny. That was fucking. I lost.
Were you afraid of bees after that? It was definitely. I feel like everyone got afraid of bees for a while after.
Yeah, I think so too. At number 9, Bugsy. Bugsy with Warren Beatty about the
Bugsy McGraw.
Yeah. God.
It's a prequel to the Iron. It's a prequel to the Iron Claw.
Exactly. Yeah. Iron Claw. Oh, good grief. Anybody wants to see Bugsy McGraw movie, I'll shoot myself. Number 8, The Addams Family. I thought The Addams Family came out in 94. It came out in 91.
That would have been Addams Family. Yeah,
Addams Family Values. Okay.
Yeah, the 91 was definitely the original. I remember seeing that in the theater.
Yeah, I did too. Number 7, another movie I saw in theaters, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, the last movie with the full Captain Kirk, William Shatner crew. Number 6, JFK. Number 6, yes. Number 6, JFK. 5 weeks, still doing well. Number 5, The Last Boy Scout. Great movie. Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis. Good movie. Number 4, Prince of Tides. Terrible movie. Fuck you, Barbara Streisand. Number 3, Father of the Bride.
Great movie. It holds up. We watched it recently. Showed my daughter. She wasn't into it, but I think it holds up pretty well. Steve Martin's good in it.
Yeah, I watched it last year after watching Only Murders in the Building, and you're right, it does hold up. Like
he's really good.
I think I was laughing at it. The sequel has Tom Welling from Smallville in it. Number 2, Beauty and the Beast, the animated.
Juggernaut.
Because 91 was kind of maybe
this is the reboot. Yeah, this is where.
The big renaissance.
I think 89 is Little Mermaid. I think it kind of starts there, and then you get Beauty and the Beast, you get Aladdin, Pocahontas, like they all start to Lion King.
Mulan.
Speaking of Beauty and the Beast,
Moulin Rouge.
Speaking of Beauty and the Beast, can we put that picture of Grooney and JT up again?
Yes. Thank you. Oh, I'm assuming I'm Beauty. But
yes, of course.
Well, if anybody else is Schiff, you're gone.
There is. I can't tell you. There is video of that picture. I said, let's do our laugh together. We did the Anvil laugh. Yeah, to Grooney laugh. But.
Meanwhile, you look like Dusty laughing. Yeah, this is not my son. Oh, God. You should probably hide that. All right. And the number 1 movie of the weekend was Hook with Robin Williams.
I saw that in theaters as well. Another great
movie. Did I. Yeah. Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
So there you go there. All right. Sadly, for the second consecutive episode, we will not be taking the field as the 91 regular season's over. I
haven't had it all queued up.
Well, we're not. We missed it by a week because I know what Schiff didn't pick 91 for this match. He picked it because it was the last great year of his garbage football team. So
I was 2 at the time, so it doesn't even count for me. So
yeah, it's really so you have nothing then. All right.
Yeah, I have nothing.
I did have my mom. This is how I became a Jester. I had a lot of random memorabilia. I had matching shirts of the Redskins and the Bills from that Super Bowl. And it was like the Redskins had it had the logo and I forgot who was on it. And the Bills, I wore the shit out of those shirts. They were awesome shirts. They had the old gaudy fucking writing on it.
Yeah.
But her coworker's husband, I'm trying to think of his last name now. He was the GM. He was like the assistant GM for the Bills. He ended up being the GM of the Chargers. AJ Smith, maybe. So he used to go to the Super Bowl. So he would always bring me home like some kind of memorabilia. So I have all this random like Super Bowl programs or shirts or like cards and stuff. Like he'd always bring me home something during those years that the Bills going. And then he went to the Chargers and they ended up going in 95 or whatever. So yeah, I had like all kinds of random Super Bowl shit. No, he never won. Never won one.
He couldn't come back a winner.
I want to say it was AJ Smith. I forget his last name now. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Did you tell? How come you don't want his stuff? Because he's a loser. So anyway, this was Wild Card Weekend. So a lot of low-scoring games. Chiefs beat the Raiders 10-6. Falcons beat the Saints 27-20. I remember that game. The Saints won 12 games that year. I got upset.
Bennett was here. He could tell us all about it. Yeah, well, John Johnson had 2 touchdowns.
Too legit to quit. Cowboys beat the Bears 17-13. And yes, the Jets, Jets lose 17-10 in Houston to the Oilers. So
doesn't matter. We get the logo back from that year. It's amazing.
It is so nice. Good to see the Jets.
I feel like they had to have Rodgers get hurt and suffer last year because they couldn't have anything good done in those shit uniforms. Now they get the real ones.
I'm so excited.
It's time.
Maybe he'll last a whole quarter this time.
No, maybe. Maybe your team will go winless. What? Anyway,
best team in the division.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see what was going on in the NBA on this December 29th. There was only 3 games. Bucks beat the Rockets 110-100. Spurs beat the Magic 96-87. And the Trailblazers, speaking of Portland, they celebrated losing their promotion or whatever by blowing out the Heat 129-96. So at this point in the season, Knicks are leading at 18-8. The defending champion Bulls are 23-4. The Jazz lead the Midwest at 19-12. And the Warriors lead the Pacific at 18-8.
Schiff. What great Nintendo game came out the following this NBA season? Basketball game.
Was it NBA Jam? No, that's 93. Is it? It's not Bulls versus Trailblazers finals, is it? Yeah, it is. I actually had that.
It was an awesome game.
Yeah.
Because 91 was Double Dribble had been out before that, and then 92 is the first like NBA. I think it would become NBA Live or whatever, but it's NBA. It's Bulls versus Blazers in the NBA playoffs and I think only the playoff teams were in the game. And then 93 is NBA Showdown, which is like my favorite freaking basketball game of all time. When you talk about doing full seasons as a 12-year-old, that game, I played it endlessly that game. Full on whole ass seasons. And I tried to play it like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. I like booted up. I found my Nintendo and play it. It is so goddamn slow. And I think it might have actually been Super Nintendo. That game, I think, was Super Nintendo. It was so slow. So I'm like, oh my God. At the time, it was like amazing, but like, you're just like so plotting. It's like Scott on the fucking basketball court. Moseying down the court.
Yeah. I mean,
what am I, Rick Barry?
I try to fire
Frank
up NCAA football 13 in like the loading times. I was like, how did I sit through this like before? And I just turned it off on my PS3.
I know my son's been, because he's all into 2K24, but I had my old ones on the PS5 that I had downloaded like over the last few years. So he started playing 2K20 the other day. And to him, it's like, wow, this is like, historical. I'm like, I should break out the Nintendo. We'll play some NBA Showdown 93, buddy. We'll see. It'll shock your world.
With the controller that's like, 10 grams or something, not even a pound.
Actually, what was an awesome game? I think one of the best basketball games ever was the Dreamcast. NBA, I don't know if it was NBA Live or NBA, it was like NBA 2000 or whatever.
Yeah, it was NBA 2K with Iverson on the front.
Oh my God, we played the shit out of that. One of my friends in college had the Dreamcast, and we just played it endlessly. That game was awesome. One of the best basketball games ever. It's such an underrated gaming system.
Yeah, it flamed out. Like I had one of those, and I played the shit out of Crazy Taxi. I had NFL 2K on it, and I was just like dominating fools with it. And it had like the weird controller, which everyone go look up what the controller looked like, where the memory card you would stick in the middle of the controller.
Yeah.
And like it would light up and everything. It was so ahead of its time. The graphics were great. It was awesome. Sega just flamed out. Like they literally stopped after a year making it. Like
I know, it sucks. It was great. That game was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of good NBA games in the early 90s. Bulls Celtics, I think I had. There was Celtics Lakers. It was a bunch of stuff. And then what was it, NBA? And so the NBA Jam of the Arcade, was that there in 91?
93. That was like 92, 93. Okay. Well, they did I think they did 2 versions. Wasn't there like the original, and then they did like did they do another one like the next year? They have like more teams and stuff, I think.
Yeah. I think they did one. I know they did one in 92 because I was always, because the Lakers sucked. So I always played Portland because I liked Drexler. And then I think they updated one, and that's when Charles went on the Suns. And then I was always the Suns because that team was fucking awesome.
Yeah, so it came out in 93. Oh, and then they did tournament mode in 94. That's what it was, tournament edition.
Oh, right.
And that's where it kind of, that was like the one that you play still today when you go to like, friggin' Top Golf or whatever.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, they have like all the old games.
Yeah.
Or I think if you buy the desktop one or whatever, like Andy has, I think those are like the tournament edition. That's like kind of the infamous one, I think. But I was always the Hornets. I mean, LJ and Zoe was like awesome.
Bobby Phils. Yep. All right. In the NHL, which those games wouldn't be good until like 94 when you could fight and beat the shit out of each other. Guys had brains oozing out of their head after you fight.
You didn't like ice hockey?
Ice hockey. I did like Blades of Steel. Blades of Steel was great.
Well, Blades of Steel was good. Ice hockey was pretty good. I used to play that a lot too, where you had the different countries.
Yes, it was like the Olympics. Yeah,
and you had to pick either skinny guy, middle guy, or fat guy was pretty much your options. You picked who you wanted at every position. You put the fat guy in goal.
Yeah, you had a guy like Typhoon playing winger.
Well, the fat guy couldn't move, and then the skinny guy was fast, but he could knock down.
Yeah, pretty funny.
I actually downloaded that on like Switch. You could do like the old NES games or whatever. And I remember playing that too a couple years ago. And like, actually, that held up all right. Ice hockey. I played it quite a bit.
I loved Double Dribble. I loved Blades of Steel. I loved Jack Nicklaus Golf. All those 8-bit Nintendos were just so fucking good.
Computer games are great too. Like I had NBA Live 95 and NHL Live 95 on my computer, and those games are awesome. Like those I played a lot too.
Yeah, after my Nintendo, I ended up getting I had a Sega Genesis, and there was a couple NBA games that were good. That was the first Bill Walsh college football, and you got
to bring back the video game podcast now, Chef. See,
I know. I gotta retool it because it was. Yeah. I don't know how y'all speak so much when I was like drinking water at the end. I was like messing with the person. Just talk for like 13 seconds. But no, it's it's great. Like the video game stuff. Like it brings everyone together. Like I like this summer. The new college football comes out, and
Dude, I am so pumped. I think it's July 24th. I am so pumped.
Yeah, and they have like the whole reveal thing the day after my birthday in May. I'm like setting off like 2 hours at work. No one bother me, so I can watch this.
I'm so excited. I was playing. I finally had to ditch my 360, but I was playing 2014 with Denard Robinson of Michigan on the front. Like, literally my 360 just shit the bed, and then I had to finally chuck it. But
that was the GOAT one. And,
so good.
It's good, but like the NBA games have always been fun. I mean, I used to be a live fan, but then like 2K took over, and then 2K became like basically like an RPG now, where it's like you got to like go to the gym, go to the cafeteria. It's like
they love. I mean, like I said, my son does it. He's obsessed with the My Career thing. Like that's all he does. Like he does some seasons too, but like that's all. It's all.
Go do that commercial. Hey man, we got a commercial to do tonight. Do you do the commercial? It's like
you talking about playing seasons, JT. When I first moved to Nashville, I was working like 60, 70-hour weeks, but I'd be on call for work. So I'd just be listening to podcasts, you guys' podcast while playing My Player. I made the Hall of Fame. That's how much My Player. You know how long you have to play for that?
Yeah.
I haven't touched My Player since. Well,
that was like when I was in Connecticut working with Scott. I worked all overnights and weekends. I had so much free time during the day. I was no one else to hang out with. So that was all I did was play Madden. I used to go through seasons of Madden, 7, 8, 9 years deep. But what was cool is during that time, you could upload the college team into Madden.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember uploading, I didn't think I had the college game. I think I got the memory card from someone that had it. And I uploaded like Frank Gore from Miami into the game before he was on the Niners. And he was like unbelievable off of that upload. But
yeah, I remember doing stuff like that, and like you said with the memory card, like your kid has no recognition, think just download it off. I remember for the memory card for the NCAA, you would have to like send it to some random person,
and they would buy it or whatever,
and they would put all the players' names on the memory card and then ship it back to you. So you're waiting like 2 weeks for this whole thing, and I'm like, now it's just
it's like getting tapes from Stephen Graham at that time, like I was doing.
Yeah.
Grimace. On the NHL on this night, speaking of hockey, because those games were great. Bruins beat the Jets 6-3. Whalers beat the Islanders 6-4. Sorry, Schiff, there was no Predators at this time.
Just Michael Jackson.
Just Michael Jackson. Red Wings.
Black or white.
Red Wings lead the Norris with 50 points. Canucks lead the Smythe with 48. Canadians lead the Adams with 54. And the Caps lead the Patrick with 51. And that is your very lengthy video game driven pop culture corner.
All right, let's head back to December 29th, 1991 for Starrcade. the Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia, 9,000 in attendance. Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone on commentary. Let's go ahead and start the match. We'll get into the Steve Riddle fun facts here. We're at 2:21:03 on Peacock. If you want to join us, indulge us in Battle Bowl. I see Bill Kazmaier standing in the back there, so you know things are going to happen. So let's count it in. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so Sting lights the candle. Let's quickly take a trip through some notes here on Norfolk from our buddy Steve Riddle. It was a regular stop for Jim Crockett Promotions, eventually WCW. It was a regular stop on the Great American Bash Tours. There are 4 NWA WCW pay-per-view Schiff. So this is obviously one of them. Do you know the other 3?
Oh, I'm not good at this. All right, let me try. I want to say a Great American Bash was there.
Bash, no, nope.
Oh, I know Halloween Havoc. Maybe I'm really bad. I'm really bad
Scott,
at this.
You know.
Well, Starrcade 88.
Yep.
And this one. Didn't they do? They did 2 World War IIIs. 96.
Yeah, the first two, 95 and 96.
95, 96. I knew 96 was one. The one that was that Scott Hall won that one, I think. And then I thought it was 96, 97. It was 95, 96. And then
no, Hall wins like 97, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he faces Sting and Uncensored. It's Sting and then Giant.
Yeah, Giant wins the second one.
Right. Savage won in 95, right?
Yeah, Savage and then Giant.
He won the title, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Clash 23 was there. That's it. That's all of them.
Yeah.
I guess you're right, Schiff. There is. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the big DX tank took place.
Yeah, that was the Norfolk Scope. Yep,
the DX tank.
There is one WWE pay-per-view. You were close there, Show. It is Great American Bash 2004, where The Undertaker kills Paul Bearer as the Norfolk. It's the only one ever there.
Where, that's the bull rope, right? Where JBL wins.
Yeah.
JBL beats Eddie. When Eddie bleeds like a pig, that's the month before. That's Judgment Day, I think.
Yes. Yeah, it's in LA. It was the 2012 Tribute to the Troops. One TNA pay-per-view, Destination X 08. Hosted Battle of the Belts 9 for AEW on TV. On 12/14 Pro, the Battle Bowl concept was announced and revealed that 40 men would take part, randomly paired into tag matches, the winners of each match in the Battle Royal. And a week later, the 40 participants were announced and revealed that random tag drawings would take place at Starrcade before every match. So there you go. It's kind of crazy seeing Dustin in here because, I mean, this is – when did he come back to – I guess he'd been there all in 91, right? I don't know. This seems –
Yeah, he came because when we were doing 7 Months of Danger, he was there in a couple of those matches.
Yeah, because he comes back with Dusty in early 91, right? After they leave. Yeah. After the Rumble.
Well, hell, growing up, I didn't even know that Dustin had even shown up in WWF until like doing all this stuff. Until like I thought obviously with Goldust, but I didn't know he was there with that big angle with Ted DiBiase at that Saturday Night's Main Event, where it's just crazy that Vince didn't try to get him to stay because like look how big he is. He could have been. I've had.
Well, I think once Dusty was going to go, I think he was going to go with him. I mean, he wasn't going to stay behind probably. So it's one of the trade-offs, I guess, for Dusty because Dusty wanted to go back, and I think they said okay. And if he was going to go back to be the booker, obviously he's going to bring his kid with him. But Todd Champion's quit the ass on him. Good for him. He's jacked up.
Yeah, he's got a wagon. That was the U.S. The WCW Special Forces.
Yes. Firebreaker Chip and Todd Champion.
Yeah, and there was originally going to be Pistol Pez Watley as the mailman, but they got scrapped for some reason.
91 WCW is such a real, like, kind of a black hole for me. You gotta relive that sometime.
Is that Liger?
Yeah, Liger is in this match because God, who was the guy? Mike Graham, like no sells for him during this match, like during their tag team match, which I think that's one of the things that made this pay-per-view I love so much as a kid, like the randomness of it, of like we're drawing.
It's such an odd cross-section of talent, like young and old. Like Bagwell's in there. The Steamboat's getting destroyed by Vader.
Yeah, Vader.
Then you got like Jimmy Garvin, you got Richard Morton, young Steve Austin's in there, right? Like there's such a weird mix of guys for sure.
Is that Barry Windham with Bagwell in the corner? He looks terrible.
No, that's Thomas Rich.
Oh God, he looks fucking
It's
terrible.
the Big Don, Tommy Rich.
FBI great.
The Big Don.
Yeah, I don't think Wyndham is still hurt from the Halloween Havoc attack where they broke his wrist.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
He slammed his hand right in the door. Is that? Or I think it's something else. No, that is it. Okay. The enforcers. Yeah.
Yeah, the enforcers.
Yeah, the Cruncher. Well, that gives him the Cruncher name, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought there was rumors, or this might have happened, but it was during COVID. I can't remember, but I thought there was rumors that AEW was going to do a Battle Bowl, and I don't know if they ever did or not. Like, I would love it. I know that.
See, I know you love it. Was it you and I that were talking about it in Philly? It might have been. I remember talking to someone about it recently, and it was like, it's such a cool concept in theory, but I just feel like the execution is like, it was just never there. I know you get nostalgic feels for this one, so it's okay. I'll allow it. And it was always intriguing to me as a kid. Like, I always wanted to rent the shows that had it whenever. And we didn't have a lot of WCW tapes like in the early 90s up here. So every now and then there was like one, I don't know if it was Blockbuster yet or Major Video, whatever it was. There was like one that, or Hollywood, there was one that had, every now and then they'd pop up like Starrcade 91 or BattleBowl 93. And it seemed awesome. It's like the concept is so cool. But I just feel like execution sometimes is so shaky. This one's not bad. BattleBowl 93 I think is one of those boring pay-per-views ever fucking generated.
It's got awful, and that's because like their roster was really bad at the time too.
Yeah,
like, there's no Eric Watts and
that BattleBowl 96 is Slamboree is freaking terrible too.
Yeah, that's when it's like running out of gas. Like the only person is really DDP, and he hasn't even been made yet. And then they have that stupid thing where like DDP has the ring, and then like him and Chavo and Eddie feud about it all the way till like Fall Brawl in September. It's just dumb. But yeah, this is the only Battle Bowl I like. So like I don't.
92 is okay too. I think. Yeah, I think 92 is all right too. But they it's an odd thing to do a Starrcade. So I think they actually had the right idea turning it into its own show in 93. It's just to your point, the roster is so dead and like it's so many boring matches that the guys that are in it, it doesn't click. But it's an odd, I don't know why they were so obsessed with doing concepts of Starrcade. Like this is your marquee show. Battle Bowl, they do the fucking scaffold, they do the New Japan.
Well, during this time, they had the 89 Ironman tournaments.
Yeah, that 90, too. Yep.
They had the Pat O'Connor tag titles and the tag tournament, which is like, Jesus Christ, at 4 years old, even I knew the Steiners were going to win that tournament. It's like, when I rented it. And
then 2 straight Battle Bowls.
Yeah.
95 is the New Japan. So, yeah, it's an odd thing that they always do these odd concepts at Starrcade instead of just going straight forward.
Yeah, and 93 is the only good one of that run because it's the Flair for the gold.
Yeah.
The 94, you have Butcher versus Hogan. The less said about that, the better.
I think if you look at the history of Starrcade, there's not that really many great Starrcades. It's like held up as this legacy show for WCW. But, I mean, outside of the first few, 97 ends up kind of bombing. They always make like a big, stupid fucking decision. 96 is sneaky good. I like 96, but 97, 98, 99, they all have like a stupid decision in there.
And then 98, you end Goldberg Street. 99, Goldberg kills Brett.
Yeah. It's like 2000 dumb always happen.
Everybody's dead. 2000, everybody's dead.
Yeah,
everybody's dead.
Oklahoma Medusa, I'm pretty sure is
Starrcade 2000 had that weird poster where it was like in Russian or something. It was like really fucking strange.
Yeah, but that did have a sneaky good triple threat ladder match with like the Young Dragons 3 count and
the opener. Yeah, that's really good.
Yep, that is really good.
Yeah, no, you're right. 93 is on the short list of really great Starrcades. It's not a ton of them. 95 is like good. I like 95. It's just weird that they do that gimmick on the show, but it's still a pretty good show. And
like they never treat it. The problem is because Starrcade, Crockett obviously in the early mid 80s, Starrcade was like that was their show. But I feel like once WCW took over, they never gave themselves like a show. They didn't treat Starrcade like their WrestleMania. They just treated it like the December show. Like,
I remember when I started watching WCW as a kid thinking Super Bowl was a big show because it was next to WrestleMania. So I'm like, oh, this was Super, right? Super Bowl, Super Brawl. So like when I got into it, I thought Super Bowl was the big one of the year. And then when Bischoff takes over, and he's talked about this, like Halloween Havoc and Bash at the Beach become his big two. Like he still uses Starrcade, but those are always, if you look historically at the cards he built, it was always Bash at the Beach and Halloween Havoc have like the biggest matches and the biggest builds and the celebrities and like everything else. Like those are like his two big ones every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which I disagreed with him at first when he said that, but after talking it over with you guys and like hearing like other stuff, because Bischoff can be grating on me sometimes. It brings up good points. And also, did you see Richard Morton and Jushin Liger having probably the worst? It was like me and trying to wrestle right there. Like it was bad. He tried to do like a spin wheel kick 2 times to him, and like Richard Morton just like got out of the way both times, and they both eliminated each other. It was horrible. But like
this is right in the hot and heavy of the York Foundation as well, right? Richard Morton and
yes, Thomas Bridge. And actually, when we did 7 Months of Danger, much to my chagrin, just because I wanted to have Sting be the MVP, we named Terrence Taylor the MVP of BattleBowl because he actually had a pretty good showing against Luger in his tag match. So,
Terrence Taylor. Well, it all started with Wall Street, right? And then he left to go be IRS.
Yeah.
So they made Taylor the centerpiece. I think it was Jimmy Jam.
Yep. Bye-bye. Now he's bald, missing all that hair.
Yeah.
Look at Firebreaker Chip getting the final 9 here. I didn't even realize Rude was in there. It's like they're not doing a good job focusing on these guys. I know I'm like half paying attention, but it's like
what they'll focus on Rude at a certain part of the match. Sorry, I've just seen this so many times.
No. Go ahead, take control.
No,
I didn't even notice him and Simmons are in there.
Yeah, like with this, they have like the 2 rings, and like you have the winner of the 1 ring, and then you wait for the winner of the 2nd ring. Which on the way to go to the 2nd ring is here you have Sting and Rude duking it out. That was like the main feud in WCW because Luger had already ran all of his dates out. So like he was the world champ, and then you had like
they're just trying to limp to Super Brawl with him. So
right. I mean, he only shows up like a couple more times. And also there was a point where they fired Harley Race and Luger was like, I quit. Fuck it. I'm going home. And he quit. And that's when they brought like Race back and then put him back with Vader. And here you have a nice little heel thing right now with Vader and Luger going at it. It's just one of those things where like, I wish to see like if Luger would have stuck around a little bit longer, how he would have fit in with everything.
Luger in the yellow is cool looking too.
Yeah. And one thing I love is they just showed it was Austin in his like what do you call those like drink cups that was big in the 90s like the logo you know what I'm talking about, right? I don't know. I'm bad at describing the stuff. Like it was a big logo in the 90s. That's what Steve Austin looks like he's wearing right now.
Well, he always looked like he was wearing the Jams shorts, but I think he was TV champion still at this point.
I think he is, yeah. But Luger looks like you can tell he's like just going like half speed with everything.
Yeah, he's trying not to get hurt. And I mean, speaking of tights, like super lazy with Rude, who's usually awesome with his tights. He's got like his old WF ones on because he's got the long curly hair on his ass. So I mean, he hadn't had that hair in a while, even WF since like early 90. So it's pretty funny to see like he pulled those fucking things out of the archives. If you look at his ass, he's got the fucking long curly hair.
Well, the first Steiner recliner right there to Mr. Hughes.
Yes, there you go.
As you can see, pretty much when Sting and Rude went over, they decided to get rid of all the dead weight in the 2nd ring. As Todd Champion and Bill Kazmaier left immediately. They were like, just get the hell out of here. Steamboat and Vader, like I know they teased that in 94. I'm not sure if they actually did it, but maybe on a Saturday night. But
did they fight in 92? I thought they had a match in 92.
I can't remember. Maybe they do when they injure Sting. Steamboat and Vader.
Is it on a Clash? I don't know if it's on a pay-per-view.
I don't know how I feel. No, it's not pay-per-view, but I feel like they fought before. No, I could be wrong.
It must have been on a Clash. And one thing we noticed from 7 Months of Danger, like we have at the start of it, when the Dangerous Alliance forms, Ron Simmons is in there as like one of the top baby faces. Halfway through, he just disappears. and like he's replaced, I think, with Dustin. So
they fight on Worldwide in April of '93, and they also fought November of '92 on Worldwide.
That's so weird that they just didn't.
And maybe early '94 as well. They might have one.
Marcus Alexander as he wins WCW Rookie of the Year 4 times.
Yeah, 3rd or 4 times. February '94 looks like they fought on Saturday night, so they have a handful together.
Oh, I do think. Oh, there goes. Almost calling for Ron Simmons and Mr. Hughes. Dustin Rhodes goes over. I think if Hogan doesn't come in '94, obviously history has changed. That both Austin and Rhodes are multi-time WCW champions. That's definitely what it seemed like in '94.
Yeah, I think Dustin probably wins at the end of '94.
Yeah. Invader's gone, and so is Marcus Bagwell. And we're down to the Dangerous Alliance versus like the 2 big baby faces in the company. And they do like a ring around the rosy thing right here that I just love. Like, I'm sorry, like talking about a match I've seen so many times. Like Sting just jumps over Steamboat and he takes out Rude. It's awesome.
And this is a big spot for Austin too, to be Final 4 in there.
Yeah, and he had just came in the company too and went through 2 different valets with Lady Blossom and I think like Lady A or something. So
I guess they didn't wrestle. I was trying to see if Steamboat and Vader wrestled at clashes, and they never.
No, I don't think so. I think it's those 4 TV matches or whatever that we just went over.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're doing this stupid triple box thing. You can see everything.
Yeah, it's like they should have done that when it was 20 people in the match, not when there's 5. But as you can see, like we're 16 minutes into the match and we're already whittled it down to the final 5. It's like,
yeah, well, like you said, I mean, they're really trying to focus on the Dangerous Alliance versus like Sting Allies stuff. So,
yeah, it's clear they saw Austin as the future, and then that obviously gets away when upper management changes. You see it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, right. There's a world where him and Dustin stay, like you said, and just become the guys.
But then WCW might go out of business in '97. So,
yeah, I mean, without Hogan, eventually the NWO for sure. Like, I don't think they get as big as they definitely don't get as big as they got.
No,
come on, Paulie. What good are you? You're supposed to hit him with the phone.
Yeah, he just and Paulie as the Fat Ninja was amazing. And then you see like ultimate heel move with Rude right here. He pulls Steamboat down, and then he's gonna run in and give Sting a Rude Awakening, which like. Growing up, like I thought the Rude Awakening was like the worst finisher ever because like Rude was like the biggest heel when I first started watching wrestling. It's not even a good Rude Awakening right there, but he was just awesome.
My friend Jim always wanted to give me one, and I never trusted him. He'd get so mad at me and wait to wrestle. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a Rude Awakening." I'm like, "I'm not giving you my neck to snap down." I think one time he did it, but I was like, "Yeah, we can fake wrestle without having to bust out fucking neck breakers."
Real wrestlers don't like neck breakers. Yeah, that putts do it.
I remember me and my one of my best friends, Justin Haney, gave my little brother Justin, a lot of Justins here, JT, I apologize, a 3D, and we thought he broke his arm. And I was like, like one of the things, like when the sibling starts crying, it's like, shut up, like stop crying.
Wrestling's only safe when it's in a Zaxby's dining room.
Apparently.
Well, one of my favorite 3D moments was there was like an improv competition in college. We joined up, and you kind of got like tagged in and tagged out. And so when our group was up, we had to do like Barney or something else. And then suddenly it switched to WWE. I don't think they knew we were big fans of WWF at the time, I guess. Without missing a beat, we go 3D. We lifted a little Stevie P up for the 3D, and then they switched it before we could take him down. But like, we didn't even think about it. It was like, whatever. We just went right into it. But I wish we could have taken him down with it. But you're right. There's been so little focus on Luger in this match. Until besides the Vader spot and then this.
Yeah, he's about to get a nice period where he's showing like he's a badass. But my God, like you look at Luger right here and his head looks like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He's on so many steroids.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
you could have fit in that Giants lineup we talked about last episode, Scott. Fit right in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It just looks so swollen. But you are right. That yellow is great.
Yeah, it's cool. It's something you don't see a lot of. I remember renting Super Bowl II as a kid, and I think it burned me on getting WCW tapes. I didn't do anymore because they refused to show. They only showed like 5 matches from the show on the tape, and I was so fucking mad. I'm like, because it was like a big deal to go rent the tape, pay for it. You had to go get it, and if it wasn't good or short, I didn't even give a fuck if the show was good. If it was short, I'd get rage-inducing. I'm like, what are we doing? This show only has 5. Looking back, it was like 5 great matches, right? But I was so mad at the time because I'm like, why is this tape like only 2 hours or whatever? It was the same with like, I think I rented one of the Hulkamania tapes or something, or Best of Hulk Hogan. And I didn't realize I had 3 matches on it. And I was rip shit. I'm like, it was like 40 minutes. I'm like, fuck this.
Well, the Turner Classic, the VHS list cuts out some tag team matches.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would, I don't know why they cut so much stuff out. I think the tape space or whatever the reason, but it was like, I didn't never want to rent WCW shows because they were always cut up. They always would cut matches out.
Yeah, try explaining that to 4-year-old me. It's like, no, I want my stuff. Like, give me
everything.
Yeah.
Like I read PWI and see like, what do you mean there was like 10 matches in Super Bowl? It was only 5 on the tape.
And I will say, like, this is like peak JR right here, because he's like talking about the history of Sting and Luger right now and how they were both seen as the future of WCW and how they were friends and everything, which as like a little kid, like I just ate it up. And like, I remember the first thing like I learned reading was like this article about Sting and the Steiners and how they were supposedly all friends from like some PWI magazine. And I think I kept it till like I ended up like moving multiple houses. So I think it just got lost.
Well, and they had the great match of Super Bowl. So
yeah. Well, also, this is where I was talking about the baby. You can sort of see the baby right now. You're going to see it a whole lot closer soon. I laugh every time. And like, if I'm watching it and like, I've shown this to my wife like so many times and she's like, what the hell is your problem? Like, why are you obsessed with this? I was like, why did he bring a kid to this pay-per-view? Like, it's 1991. Like, what it is. Yeah. And like, he brings the baby back. Like,
I mean, is there a chance that's not his baby?
I mean, it might be Luger's baby.
Like he might have stole it.
He's so
why
good.
Why is Capetta sitting randomly on the phone and on the headset? Look, he was on the phone, but like he's such in a random spot. He's just in the middle of the railing.
I wonder if he was doing one of those 1-900 things where they were like calling the matches or something. And
maybe that he was talking to the back, maybe to relay something because he looked like he was holding the headset.
Tell him to hurry the hell up.
No, why isn't he over near like Shivani and Ross? Like he's just randomly sitting against the railing.
You're right, though, Schiff. It just seems like Luger's forehead is so abnormally large. it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it reminds me of I had to write this in college. I picked to write about like the Balco stuff with like Barry Bonds, and like Barry Bonds' head started off as like 6.5 and then went to 9 3/4, and I was like, a head does not do that.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't.
That's just what it reminds me of right there.
Too bad it wasn't Bonds instead of Griffey in The Simpsons, where his head blew up from the magic elixir. There's a guy in the audience a minute ago that had a great UNLV classic shirt on. This is right during their heyday. So
yeah, the Running Rebels, and this is my favorite part of the match. Like, I don't know why, I just love it so much. He's gonna miss the Stinger Splash right here. Sorry, spoiler alerts, guys. I'm getting ahead, but I've just seen it so many times. And it's like one of those things like where like you see him like trying not to keep his balance. It's like if he falls over, he loses. So it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things in wrestling that like I love, like where like it could go wrong, but it doesn't. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ray's been bumping around as always.
Yeah, Race has been like, the MVP of this because Luger doesn't really want to do much. See right there, Stinger Splash, up. Then he catches himself. It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, they've given this a lot of time, too. It's a good Super Bowl preview of, like, what the match could be. It's probably better, right? Because the Super Bowl match is kind of okay, right?
Yeah, somehow Luger is more juiced to the gills in that Super Bowl match.
Yeah.
And, like, they do the thing where, like, Sting hugs him at the end and they cut away because, like, they both knew that was Luger's last match. So, last match at the time at WCW.
He'd be in WrestleMania drinking milk a couple months later.
Then he has like the car crash. I mean, the motorcycle crash. because he was supposed to be on WBF.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be the Super Show, whatever the fuck it was called. WBF Mania.
Body Stars.
Yeah, God.
Well, that was the show. What was the name of the pay-per-view? It was oh my God, I can't think of it. Tony's pretty good here too. The moment's now. He's got to do it now, and he does.
Yeah, it's just great. Like, I love it, and like they're doing like the hype. Like, this is what we'll see in 1991, and I mean 1992, and like, no, you're gonna see Luger one more time in 92, one time total, and like maybe some pre-tapes, but that's it. And then Sting wins, and it's just one of those things.
Scott?
It says, let me see. It says the 91. It just says 1991.
I guess this is a pay-per-view, so maybe there wasn't a name. That's why I couldn't think of it.
It just says the 1991 WBF Championship was.
Okay, yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah, it was at the Taj.
Yeah, I didn't. That's right. It's just WBF Championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony the Jetman Pearson.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun, Schiff. Thank you for picking that one. Definitely a match. I haven't watched it forever, and a show I haven't watched it forever.
I know.
I might throw on the rest of it sometime here next couple of days. But Scott, that'll do for us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to motor on to another town. Hopefully we can find our car. And if we do, we can head to the next town and check out the show. I'll have another guest with us as always. Mm-hmm. Sure, check out everything at the Placement Nation Wrestling Network and North South Connection here on YouTube and all social media. Tons of great content coming at you across all of our feeds, and maybe something else popping around the time that this drops as well. So stay tuned. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. Talk to you in 2 weeks. Everyone take care. We're out.